Hi, I'm going to talk a little bit today about palmistry. And, you might initially think, oh God, that sounds a lot of nonsense, palms, that's fortune tellers at the fairgrounds and things. And really, yes, palmistry has fallen into quite a lot of disrepute. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the very, very basics and mainly the lines of the palm, because there's a lot to the subjects. So, do I believe it? Should it be, left to the fairground readers? Well, actually, I think there's a lot in palmistry. It's very closely tied into astrology, and I was convinced that it was real when I saw somebody in India who told me massive things about me just by looking at my thumbprint, not even looking at my palm, just my thumbprint. And I thought, my God, that was incredible. And this person, they're not using psychic skills. These are an interpretive art. We've lost most of it, and most of what we know about palmistry nowadays has fallen into the sort of tabloid newspaper type of thing. In particular, I want to reference here this idea of the M shape on the hand. Right now, it's been doing the rounds for a while, and I noticed it was in some of the papers about a year ago. And when I saw this idea about if you have a certain M shape on your hand, then you're going to be, there's all sorts of different things it means. It means marvellous things about yourself. So obviously everybody loves this idea, don't they? Or you're going to be fortunate, you've got great insight into things, you're going to be a famous person and so forth. And actually I've done quite a bit of palmistry in my time. Mainly sort of, these are sort of the type, I wouldn't consider myself a professional palmist. No, I'm a medium, that's what my work is, and more than that, as a spiritual teacher, I suppose. But in the early days, I found that palmistry was quite interesting. It's quite interesting when people say at parties, oh, can you give me something psychic, or I'll have a look at your palm. That way you're not having to actually use any psychic gifts, because it is an interpretive art. Okay, so it's quite good for those sort of things. But there is definitely a much, much deeper thing to palmistry too that I'm not going to really talk about here today. But I'm just going to talk about the basic, simple thing. And I want to come to that M-shaped business because, I'm supposed to have it on my palm too. Now, if you look at my... Ooh, here we go, in Shogas. If you look at my palm there, you'll see there's a shape of an M. I'll put a picture up of an M shape on the palm, but you can probably see it. You see it comes, I have to look round, it comes down, you can see it, it's like a crossed M, right? Going down that, goes back to front, like that, crosses in the middle, and then comes down the other side, you see? So you get a shape of an M on the palm. Oh, it keeps going out of focus. Right, okay, there we go. So, is that rare? In my opinion, it's not. Because the basic lines there shown on the palm that most people have. Most people have this line that goes across the palm here. This is the heart line. This is the line that talks about all the emotional side of your life and things like that. And we interpret the line in terms of its strength, its depth, its whether it has islands on it, crosses on it, what mounts it touches. These are the mounts here. You see, we have these patchy, lumpy bits, which are the mounts, and the lines that go across the mount. So where it starts, if it starts high up, it means one thing, and so forth. So that is your heart line. So we all have that one. So most people are going to have that one on this M shape. The lifeline, everybody has that one. That's the line that runs down there. You see, that's the lifeline. The length of that line shows possibly the length of your life. Sometimes people have short lines as well, and that worries them, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die early. But it's your health, the events in your life, what will happen to you in your life, things like that. And sometimes it can touch right down here, which means an extremely long life and so forth. If it has breaks, it can show conflicts at that particular time in your life. So they take that as the start of your life. This area down here towards the bottom is the end of your life. So depending on events on that line. So most people, events are determined from that line. So that tells your future. This one tells your love life future. So most people have those two lines. And then there's another line you'll notice that runs across here in the middle. You'll all have these, but they'll be slightly different on your hand. This line is your headline. Mine, of course, is very deep because I'm a highly intellectual person and very, very intelligent. But that's your, believe it or not, that's your headline. So in my case, my headline dips down here into this area, which is the lunar area, so it's the imagination area. So that's why I'm very interested in things like intuition and mediumship and all those type of things, because and the art as well. I also have another slight line. Sometimes you'll get a line that runs in line with this finger here, that runs down here, which is called the sun line. That sometimes represents creativity. So I've got the start of that here, is in my palm, but not as deep as my other lines. That was my art. I was very interested in art for most of my life. So you can see even here that we've got similar lines on our hands. And now there's another line that runs down the middle here. You see this line, you can see, go like that, you can see it, yeah. That line there, down the middle of the palm, that's called the fate line. So that's all to do with your work and your career and things like that. Not everybody has a strong line there, and some people don't have that line at all, because that fate line is more to do if you're an ambitious person. I mean, I'm an ambitious person. I've written books, I've run businesses, I've do this work now. I just relentlessly love working and hard worker. So that's why perhaps that line is strong on my hand as well. So those lines are particularly the ones I've described: the heart line, the life line, the head line, the fate line. And if you look on mine, they make an M. And on most people's hands, they will make an M. Now, you get more of an M when this line, the head line, touches the lifeline. You see mine are joined at the top there. Now a lot of you might have, you're probably all looking away from the screen at the moment, but if you look at there, you see the line is all joined up. Usually when those two lines are joined together, that's the headline and the lifeline like that, it means that you tend to be not emotionally impulsive. You tend to think about things before you act. When there's a gap between those two lines and you don't get this join at the top of the M, as it were, that means that you're more impulsive, emotionally impulsive. So quite often see in people's hands, if there's a gap between those, you'll say you're a very emotionally impulsive person, aren't you? Yes, but when you're joined, you tend to be a person that considers things before you jump in with life. Now, I'm a risk taker, but I'm not an emotional leap-in person, unless somebody does something awful to me, but then that's different. But so there we go. So those are the basic lines on the hand, and as you can see, they make a sort of an M shape. And frankly, that M shape is in many people's hands. I'd say about 50-50 people have this join here on the palm, from what I remember seeing watching the people's palms. So if 50% have that, then it's pretty light. And if another 50% probably have this line here. So we're kind of getting round about, half of the people, just under half people will have that remarkable M that everybody talks about as being the big significant thing in your palm. So basically, even when you know the basics, you can see that the tabloid press jump onto the slightest little silly little thing and again debase what was once perhaps a very fascinating art. So that's just the lines and what the basic lines are in palmistry. The hand shape makes a lot of difference. The mounts, what I talked about briefly, the mounts are quite basic. This area here is all your emotional area, for example. So if that's really well developed, very well developed area on this area of Venus here, it will show your passions. And if you've got lots of little thin lines across it, which a lot of people have, and you can't see it on the camera, but that will show you, you can be a bit anxious sometimes. I live on my nerves sometimes, I must admit. And a very strong line that runs across there, I've got that one too. I've got a good marriage, fortunately, and that shows a sign of being a very loyal person when you've got those lines that line going across there. So we could go on and on and on. And it's not really just about what each line means, or what each mount means, or what each hand shape means, or what each thumbprint means, or positions of the fingers and shapes and things. It's taking it all together that makes the difference and explains about who you are. And also you have to take astrology into account as well, because your star date will make a difference to your palm reading too, particularly in Indian palmistry. So there's a basic introduction. So don't believe everything you read in the papers. If you've got an M on there, all it means is you've got the same mark as most people. All right. So sorry to disappoint you, but there you go. Palmistry. Interesting topic. Look into it a bit more maybe. Bye for now. Jane and I now do our spiritual work for our foundation. All the profits that come from things like our conferences and theatres and workshops and all those exciting things now go into this foundation, which ultimately has the long-term plan of building centres in the UK and maybe around the world one day. But meanwhile, we've been doing a lot of direct spiritual work with it. We've been going out, feeding people in India, giving to the destitute, giving to beggars. We've helped feed schools, helped orphanages, and we've even given cows to older people that have no other form of income. So mediumship can change your life, but it can also help people directly in the world. So go to the links at the end and find out all about what Jane and I are trying to do. And you can do a lot just by sharing these videos on social media. Help us get the word out. Help us to do something really good in this world. Click on this picture of me to subscribe to our channel and see all of our latest videos as soon as they're published. Or click on this next video for more of our stuff.